Hi everyone, in today's speed build I'm doing my first ever Japanese inspired build, and I really enjoy doing this because I love Japanese culture and architecture and like Japanese gardens, like the Zen gardens and things like that. So I was really excited to do this, although I was also very nervous because I feel like I should know how to do a build like this because I've been to Japan quite often. I guess I was actually born in Okinawa and I lived there for the first 4 years of my life, so some of my very first memories of my life are in Japan and being around Japanese buildings and the culture and things like that. So I felt like I really had to step up my game here and try to make something that looked very Japanese like with this build. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this though was because I wanted to see if I could create a Zen garden in The Sims, using the terrain paint of course. And so I think it actually turned out really well, but I have a little kind of funny story about that when I get there. But I pretty much did the entire landscaping for this house before I went in to do any furnishing, which isn't usually something I do because normally I really dread the landscaping and I don't really know what to do. But since it was like one of the driving ideas for this build, I got really swept up in the idea of creating this whole Japanese themed landscaping and things like that, like with the Zen garden and stuff. But one of the issues I did come across with trying to create like the garden area and things like that, or well, I wanted to put like some statues, like some like Japanese looking statues, but when I was going through the debug catalog, I couldn't really find any that I thought really represented. Like, I mean, I probably could have gone away with maybe putting the sea turtle from, I think from the Island Living pack. There was like a sea turtle statue, which I probably could have gotten away with using, but I didn't feel like it was Japanese enough. So I ended up not, using that or anything. And I really wish that there had been like, I don't know, like just something that looked more, honestly, I don't really know why The Sims hasn't come up with like a Japanese inspired expansion pack or game pack or something like that, or even just a stuff pack. I mean, I guess there are some Japanese or Chinese-esque items obviously in the game that we can use, which is how we are able to make these Japanese inspired builds in the first place. But at the same time, like, I feel like they should have at least a stuff pack that's like dedicated to actually having more items that we can use in Japanese or Chinese themed builds and things like that. So yeah, I think that's something that I would like to see anyway. But I could be a little bit biased because I do love going to Japan and I love the culture and just the style of everything. And I've actually me and my husband have taken our kids on vacation to Japan 3 different times in the last, like, I think 5 years. So, it's been part of our family. Like, it's kind of like our second home in a way because we live out here in Guam. And so we can't really afford to take our kids to vacation in the States anywhere because to get from here to the States, like one airline ticket is like almost $2,000. So for a family of 5, that's like almost like, it's like $9,000 total to buy all of us, a round trip ticket to go to the States. So that alone is like super expensive. And then, what more if we want to take our kids to go have fun and, do sightseeing and things like that. So we haven't been able to go to the States or anything like that, but Japan is very close to where we live. Guam is like very near Japan. It just makes more sense for us to, take a cheaper flight somewhere. And because I lived in Okinawa for 4 years and I loved it, like my husband's brother, so my brother-in-law, he's in the Air Force and he was stationed in Okinawa for years. And so we actually went to go visit them and, so that they could see the kids and stuff. And also so that I could kind of see everything also because I grew up there for the first 4 years of my life. And so it was really fun. Like, I got to see things that I hadn't seen in like 20 plus years at the time. I think then I was 29. And so it had been like 25 years since I went there. And it was so nostalgic, like to see all these different places that I went when I was 3-4 years old, you know, with my parents, and then I was taking my kids to these places. It was pretty fun. It was great. And the only thing though is, so with that trip, we were in Okinawa for a week, and then we all traveled to Tokyo together for another week. And while we were in Tokyo, we decided to go to Tokyo Disney because growing up, I never got to go to any kind of Disneyland or Disney World or anything like that, right? But my husband did. Like, his parents took him to, I think, Disneyland 3 separate times, like in California or something like that. And so it was like a big deal for me. Like, I really wanted to go to Tokyo Disney. And when we were there, like, okay, so my youngest son, he's 7 now, but at the time he was only 2. And he was such a handful. Like, he would cry about the smallest things. Like, he was just so, like, he always had to be carried, and he was just like really, you know, I mean, terrible twos. And so like, there was at one point, so we had like all of his stuff in a small backpack, and one of the things that we'd, you know, hold in the backpack was his cup of milk. And at some point, our older son was carrying the backpack because they went on one of the, like, the little kid rides or whatever, and he put the backpack down and forgot to get it when he left the ride. And I mean, he was like maybe 9 or 10, 9, I think 9 at the time. And so, you know, he didn't really know, like, he didn't think about it, and we didn't think to ask him when he got off the ride where the bag was. So we were like walking around, and then when my little boy started crying for his cup, we couldn't find it, and we were trying to remember where we last had the bag. And so he's crying and crying and crying, and you know, my husband took my other 2 kids, my son and my daughter, to go look for the bag that they left at the ride. And I was just, and then even my, you know, my brother-in-law and his wife went with them to go help look for things and ask people things and whatever. And so it's just me and my 2-year-old crying. He's in his stroller, and I bent over the stroller to talk to, like, you know, to try to calm him down. And I was, you know, saying like, oh, it's okay, you don't need to cry, Daddy went to go look for your cup, you're gonna have your milk, just hold on, just wait a minute. And I have long hair, and so I'm bent over the stroller talking to him, my hair is like dangling in front of him, and so he grabbed my hair with both of his hands, like death grip, grabbed my hair. And he's screaming in my face, crying because he wants his milk, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I was just like, oh, like, I was trying to, you know, pry my hair from between his little fingers, and everyone's freaking looking at us, and I was so mortified, and I'm by myself, and, you know, almost nobody spoke English because we were in Tokyo, and I was just like, oh my goodness, it was like one of the worst experiences of my life. And so, like, we have this ongoing joke about how my first time going to Disneyland was ruined by my son. And, you know, but he's such a good boy now. Like, he's, you know, of course he's 7 now, but like ever since he was like maybe 3 or 4, he like completely changed. And he, you know, he's like such a sweetheart to me, and he's always doing things for me, and he's such a good boy and stuff. But oh my goodness, when we went to Disneyland, or, you know, Tokyo Disney, like, I was just, that was like the worst. And I was just like, you know, I waited 29 years to get to Disneyland, I finally do, and my son just ruins it for me, embarrasses me, and it just, oh my god, caused such a scene. Like, it was so, oh my god. But anyways, after that tangent, so what I actually meant to say about the Zen garden with this build though is the first time I was started on it, like, you might notice that I was working on it and then it just jumps to being finished, because I did the Zen garden, like, I did all the terrain paint and everything like that, and I saved it, and then I went to bed because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And then the next day I went in to work on this build some more, and all of the terrain paint I did from the day before was gone. It disappeared, even though I saved it. Like, I know I saved it. And even when I went in, you know, when you can see the lot, like, in the world before you actually go into the lot to build on it, like, I could see everything was there, everything looked perfect. But as soon as I went in to actually work on the build some more, it just disappeared. So I was so freaking irritated, and I was like, great, now I gotta do this whole thing over again. But it was actually kind of like a blessing in disguise, because I feel like it turned out way better the second time around, because I didn't really like the way, like, I made the circles of the sand like very bold, like very dark the first time, and it just didn't look as great as I thought it would. And so the second time, like, I made it lighter and I made the circles kind of fade out like a ripple, and so I think that turned out a lot better. But yeah, so my idea for the inside of this house is that I want it to look more modern, because if you've been to Japan, you might know that, I mean, they're very technologically advanced, you know what I mean? So a lot of the times that we've gone there, you know, aside from the time when my son ruined Disneyland for me, we also took the kids to Osaka. We went to Tokyo again like 2 years after that, 2 or 3 years after that, and then we went to Osaka a year after that. So, you know, we've gone a couple of times, and one of the things about a lot of the places in Japan is that even when the outside of a home or a building might look more traditional, inside they usually have a lot of the modern amenities that you need, you know what I mean? And they're very accommodating, like they're so family friendly. Like that's part of the reason why we love to take our kids on vacation there, because it is like so convenient. Like they have like family bathrooms and stuff, like, you know, how a lot of times like the parent like has to take their small kids into the bathroom with them or something. So they actually have bathrooms specifically made for that, so that you can have like a big stroller in the bathroom with you, and you have like, you know, all the changing table in there, and they even have like almost like not a car seat, I don't know what you would call it, like they have like a baby seat, like to strap your baby in like a regular stall, like even not even the family bathroom, so like in any regular stall you can find a baby seat that you can strap your baby in, like if you're a single parent or something, or if you're just out by yourself and your baby and you need to use the bathroom and you have nobody to hold your baby, you can just strap them in the seat in the bathroom so that you can use the bathroom and not have to worry about carrying them or leaving them outside the stall or something. So yeah, it's just, you know, they have so many things that, I mean, I don't know if the States have things like that. It's been, I think, over 10 years since I was even in the States. But yeah, you know, I just feel like that there's just so much like modernization in Japan that they really implement. But yeah, so I just wanted to explain that, because, you know, even though I made the outside of this home look very traditional in a way, like I still wanted the inside to look more modern, because it just made sense to me, because that's how a lot of places are in Japan. So and also I think there's not really much furniture in The Sims that could, I think, look like any kind of traditional Japanese furniture. And I do create like a little, it's supposed to be like a little meditation room type of deal or something like that, like on the outside, like the, I don't know, would you call it a gazebo? I don't think so, I don't know, but there's like that little extra room thing that I have on the outside, and I use those like meditation stool things as kind of like stools for them to sit on. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you know, I was just trying to make things look like Japanese furniture that's not of course in the game, but still. And so since I already had a hard time with that, like I felt like trying to make this a completely traditional looking house on the inside was just kind of impossible. I mean, if you can do it in the game, like that's great. I would be interested to see how that turns out, or like which furniture pieces you use. Also, I want to explain that this is like the bigger part of the house is like the main house, and then the little extra room that I end up furnishing last is pretty much like a guest house. Like I originally thought about making that the master bedroom, and then making the bedroom that's upstairs in the main house, making it a kid's room. But I just felt like, because I feel like they're always so accommodating, that it just made sense to have a main house and then have a completely like separate guest house for when they have guests or family over or something like that. So that's why I end up, just making it a 1-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and then having a separate guest house that has its own kitchenette and bathroom. Although I didn't put any laundry machine or anything in the guest house, because I figure they can still all just use the same laundry or like a washer and dryer and everything. So yeah, so that's in the main house, in the bathroom downstairs. So it's kind of like the bathroom that anybody can use, so for laundry or whatever. And also I was really surprised, because I've never really done any room on a diagonal in The Sims, and I didn't realize that it made more space in the room. So I was thinking that I wasn't going to have a lot of room to put the furniture, because it ends up only being like 5 tiles by so many tiles or whatever. But because of the measurement of it being on a diagonal, there was space for me to put a double bed in the 3 tiles with no problem. Like the 3 tiles wide or whatever, I feel like is usually too tight, but because it's on a diagonal, there was like so much space, so I was able to easily put a bed there and to make it, accessible for 2 Sims. So I was like, okay, so it would be perfect if I had a guest house and then, the regular master bedroom here in the main house. But yeah, I hope it's making sense the way I'm explaining these things. I don't know, like sometimes I just, just think as I'm talking. I don't really go over the things I'm going to say before I start saying it, and so a lot of times I have to really edit out my voiceovers and stuff, and which is partially why I get so nervous about doing them too. But I hope that me kind of loosening up and trying to just explain things and have fun and tell a story works out. I guess if you prefer that I stick to only explaining the build and not tell you stories about my life, you can let me know in the comments. But honestly, I feel like sometimes I like to know things like that about people, or when I'm watching a speed build on YouTube, sometimes I like to hear like the little things in the creator's life that might have led them to decisions that they made in their build, or like in, they're just like their creative direction, like maybe something influenced them to do something like that and whatever. So yeah, so I just thought I would share that, with just me being in Japan so many different times. And I know not everyone has had the opportunity to go to Japan. And so I feel like since I've been there, I really wanted to do it justice with this build and try to showcase the beauty of their home design, or like their garden and things like that. I don't know. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that I do put stuff on the back porch area that I created for this home, but I didn't record it when I was doing it, because honestly, I was really experimenting and I don't even know if I like how it turned out. I don't know. I put like a eating area, and I tried to give it, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I guess if you download this house, you can see, but I honestly didn't think it was so important that I had to show it on this video. So but I do end up putting stuff on the back porch if you're curious about that. I think the last thing I do is, after I finish doing the guest house, I just end up going outside and I finish putting a bunch of bushes and trees and things like that. Like I put a lot more bamboo trees, and I do more landscaping like around the stairway going up to the front door of the house. But I didn't bother recording that because it was just a lot of repetitive things. So, but of course you'll see in the pictures at the end, or especially if you decide to download this house, you can see how everything turned out for yourself. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So be sure to give this video a like or comment if you would like to, and let me know what you think. And remember to subscribe to my channel if you like seeing videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!